All right. Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to the Prep Talk Live Show. If this is your first time tuning in, or if you're watching the recording, I will have chapter markers in the description below so you can jump from topic to topic. I'll work on that after we get off this live today. But if it's your first time tuning in, hi, my name is Kissa. I'm an entrepreneur in the food industry. I own a company called Co-Creative Cartel with my husband, and that company owns Ninong's Dessert Lab, which is an online store that sells Philippine pastries and treats. And this is the Prep Talk Live Show. I come on live every single Monday around 12-ish, whenever my son Micah goes down for his nap. So I have some peace and quiet to be able to chat with you guys. And I just come on here. I talk about my week. I talk about the previous week and what happened. And then I also try to share a tip or two to help those of you out there that are also trying to either start a food business or a product business or just a business in general. I'm hoping to help you guys get through that process and learn a little bit more. So if that sounds interesting to you, please do subscribe to the channel. I just put out a video last week about, what was the topic about? It was about... Actually, let's talk about this week's video and then we'll talk about last week's. This week's video is my top 5 tips to up-level your table setup for a pop-up. Oh, and last week's was my pop-up checklist. So if you're interested in downloading my pop-up checklist, you can get that information in the description below of this video, of last week's video, or of the YouTube video that I'm talking about. So like I said, this upcoming week, I'm going to be posting a video tomorrow, which is Tuesday. I'm going to be posting a video about the top 5 tips I have on up-leveling your table setup for your pop-up. So whether you sell food or clothing or jewelry, whatever you sell, these tips are applicable to you, and hopefully they'll help you kind of change up your setup and, get creative with it. So anyway, let's jump into it. Last week, what happened last week? So we had a pop-up last week, last Saturday evening, and I was flying solo for that pop-up because Charlie, my husband, he stayed home with our son Micah, and I love doing our pop-ups over at the cafe that we normally do it at. Sorry, I'm watching my son in the monitor because he's napping. Anyway, so that was a great pop-up because I love the people. I love the people that host the pop-up. I love the fellow vendors that participate. It's just always a fun time because it's my community. It's people that I've grown relationships with because we see each other, fairly often at these pop-ups, and it's just... it's like we've become colleagues, coworkers almost, and it's just a good feeling to see the same people regularly every once in a while and just like support each other and be able to talk to others just about what's going on in our businesses, helping each other, all of those good things. So it was really great. We sold pancit, which is a Philippine noodle dish. So we sold that, and then we also sold some pastries as well. And I did a booth critique of my own booth last week. I'm going to be doing a booth critique for someone else in this video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But I did a critique last week, and so I wrote down all the notes that I had taken about what I wanted to improve after I took a photo. And so I kind of not rearranged, but I worked on those things, and I was able to set it up in a way that looked more visually appealing and seemed to work really well. It got customers to stop as they were walking, and so I'm really glad that I kind of did an evaluation of my booth and improved upon it. And it's something that I always do. I've been doing pop-ups for quite a long time, and for over 10 years now. Wow, over 10 years. And so every time just depending on the event and what is available and provided to us, and also what we're selling. I always take that into consideration. And so my pop-ups do not look, my pop-up setup does not look the same every single time. It just depends. And so I take it very seriously, because I know the first step to a successful pop-up is the first impression that you make, right? And so I want my setup and my booth to look inviting. I don't want people to feel pressure or feel like they can't approach my booth. And I've found that my retail background really helps with the strategizing of that. So it feels inviting for people and they feel like they can come in. Because sometimes you'll notice customers maybe walking by and they might be interested in what you have, but they're looking from the other side of the aisle, right? They might be looking from far away, and they're a little bit apprehensive to approach your table. And for one, the tip is always invite them in, right? Make them feel welcome. But I would also challenge to say, what is it that is making them want to look, which is a good thing, but what's making them do it from afar? How come they don't want to come up to my table? So when I started observing that, I figured out a system and a way for my particular business and what I sell that happens to work. And what works for me is I have my products on a shelf, and then I have boxes where we put our pastries in, because all of our pastries are pre-packaged. So people can just pick and choose from those boxes instead of asking me to grab things for them. And when they feel like they can grab themselves or do a semi self-service kind of idea, it's a little less intimidating for my customers, at least, to come up, because they want to be able to touch and they want to be able to grab. So that is what worked for me. For other people, that might be offering samples, if that is allowed in your area right now, right? Like you can offer samples and have a sign, and usually that'll draw people right in if you have a sample. Or maybe you have a giveaway. Maybe you're not selling food, so you're not selling samples, or you're not giving away samples, but maybe you're doing a giveaway for anyone that attends the pop-up event that you're participating in. And every person that stops by your table, they can fill out a ticket maybe and drop it in, and you'll give away some kind of product. And that might invite people in. So the question always for me was, what do I observe customers are doing? How are they reacting to my booth setup? Because that is the first invitation for them to get to know me a little bit better, to get to know the business, to get to know the products a little bit better. So like I said, I did that. We had a successful pop-up. I did my same setup. And let me actually show you guys what the booth looked like before and what I improved upon, so you guys can get an idea. So this is my pop-up setup from the last event, and you guys can see Charlie right in the middle. And the thing that was really tough, or that kind of strayed people away, was it looked really empty, because as you guys can see, there's gaps between the shelf and the table, right? There's gaps right here in this area, and then there's also gaps right here. So what I did was in the last event, what I did was I put this shelf to the other side of this table. I put it over here, and then I moved this cart looking table, I moved it to the center, and then our cooking station, I moved it closer to this table. So it created sort of this U this way, coming down, around, and then up, where the shelf would be over here. And I put it all more toward the center, just so that it looked less spread out. And I feel like that made a big difference, because the less sparse that you make your booth look, the more inviting it is. The more full your booth looks, the more inviting it is. It just does something with just the visualization of the way your presentation is. I noticed it when I started shopping. When I started shopping at department stores like Nordstrom, and I would go to their housewares section. Oh man, I could spend tons of time there, and I would look at their setup and I'd be like, wow, that table is really cute, and I love all the products that are at that table. And it would just make me want to go there and like look at the things that they were selling, whether it was ceramic plates or a fruit bowl, a fruit basket, a water bottle, a vase, some throw pillows, whatever it was. The way that they had merchandised it and set it up was just visually full. And the more full it looked, the more inviting it felt, and the more I wanted to come and shop. So that is something that I observed, and is something that I apply to all our pop-ups. I figure out a way to make our setup look as full as possible, because the more sparse our table looks, like especially toward the end of a pop-up, right? When you're running out of product, which is a good thing because you're almost sold out, you're running out of things to sell. I notice the harder it is to actually sell those last few pieces for whatever reason, just because it changes visually the way your booth looks. And so what I started doing was I started bringing decorations. I started bringing like bowls with coffee beans in it, and I would put that at the bottom of the shelves, or I would get a new box and I would fill it with the items that are the last of that product. So if ube cookies there's only one ube cookie left, there's only one ube cream cheese muffin, that type of thing. What I would do is I would put them all in a box, and then I would put a label that says last ones. So I would put that there so that the boxes don't look empty, and then people can look and see which ones were the best sellers. And it was a great conversation piece of like, hey, this was doing really well at this event. These are actually the last ones, so grab them before they're gone. And people were like, oh, really? And they would just like shuffle through it, and then they would grab whichever one sounded good to them. So it was a really great way to make the booth still look full, but it was also a good conversation or even sales piece to get people to pick up the last few things that you have left instead of making it look super empty. So wonderful pop-up. I love doing it. It was beautiful weather too. It's been really hot where we live. And so this was the first week where it was like in the 80s, and oh, it was glorious. It was just amazing. I like felt like I needed that like change of weather, because I've been part of pop-ups where the weather is like 100 degrees or more outside, and all of these pop-ups are outdoors that we participate in, and it really takes a lot of energy out of you to be like bubbly, and when it's 100 something and you are sweating and you feel so gross. And it's hard to be your like bubbly, positive self when you're just like, I just want to be home and I want to take a shower. So it was really nice this week because the weather was great. It was a smooth week. So I'm really grateful for that. Hi, Heather. Glad you're here. I love it. She says she loves samples. Everyone does. So if you're a person that can sell sample, or that I keep saying sell samples, do not sell samples, obviously give free samples. But if you have a business where you can give out samples, I highly recommend it. And if you're allowed, because if you are a food business, certain places, certain counties, certain states, their health departments are not currently allowing samples. Some are. So just make sure you check with your local authorities what's allowed and what's not allowed, and then make sure you get the proper permit to be able to share samples. So wanted to bring that up. All right. So last week's affirmation, let's go into that. Last week's affirmation was, I will not hurry my destiny. It will find me when I'm ready. So that was last week's affirmation. And it was a good reminder. I'm actually going through a thing right now where I really am struggling with the idea of destiny. And just kind of what's meant for me. I've always been the type of person that questions my own abilities. Unfortunately, it's like not a trait that I like to have. I always struggled with just confidence and being sure in my own abilities. And, it's just one of those things that I've always struggled with ever since I was a kid, but more so as an entrepreneur because of the fact that you have to rely on your own abilities, right? Your business is very personal. It's an extension of yourself a lot of the time. And that makes me exposed and very vulnerable. And so it was something that I've really had to work on. Actually, Heather really helped me with that because she inspired me to start a YouTube channel, and never in a million years, never in a million years would I have thought that anything I had to offer or anything I had to say was valid and would be useful to anyone, let alone to put on YouTube. Oh my gosh, it's just not something that I thought was for me, and I've really had to work on that. And through doing this live show and doing YouTube in general and sharing my knowledge and what I've learned about entrepreneurship through not just YouTube, but on my blog and on Instagram and all that stuff, I've really seen that I do have some knowledge that is helpful to others, that could really be of use and could benefit somebody. And so that has helped a lot with my confidence, let alone my destiny, right? And now I realize that that it's one of those things where those two things are very tied in together, and I need to give myself that space and that patience to just let my destiny unfold at the time that it's supposed to. When you get caught up in all of what everyone else is doing because you have confidence issues like I do, right? When you get caught up in that, it just, not only does it paralyze you because you feel like so many people are ahead and you wish that you were where they were at already, but it also paralyzes you because you're wasting your time idolizing what you wish you had, instead of just working with what you have and running with it. I mean, look at where I'm doing my live. This is my office that is clearly very much under construction, right? This is not finished by any means. And if you tuned into last week's live show, I told you, my desk is not even against the wall yet because the room is 99% finished. So we still have to put trimming around the flooring and all that stuff. But I'm still going live, even with the mess you see right here, which is all the boxes from the flooring, with nothing on the walls. It's bare bones. Luckily, there's a little bit more stuff in here where it's not as echoey. It was so echoey last week, and I still went live because I realized this is where I'm at. I'm just grateful to have an office in the first place. And I think it's a great thing for me to show things not ready and to just do it anyway, because it's so out of my character to do so. I want everything to look beautiful. I want you guys to see me at my best. I want to have all the makeup on and all that stuff. And I realized that's not me though. I rarely ever wear makeup. This is the extent of the makeup that I wear. A little bit of eyeshadow, maybe some eyeliner, my eyebrows, and that's pretty much it. I rarely ever wear foundation. I don't really wear lipstick or anything like that. And that's just who I am. And I want to show up in my own skin and how you would see me if we were walking down the street and we saw each other. So something that I'm working on. And that that affirmation really drove that in. Just being patient with myself and not hurrying, not hurrying my destiny and where I'm supposed to be, because it's going to happen when it does. And I was actually telling Heather that, this week, I actually feel really good about where I'm at when it comes to my coaching business and this YouTube channel. I just feel so much more clarity, and I wouldn't have felt that if I didn't let the process unfold in the timing that it was supposed to. If you look at my old videos on this channel, it's kind of relevant, but it's not, and it's because I just needed a subject matter to work on, right? But I wasn't sure who I was talking to or what I wanted to talk about. I wasn't sure about much, but I did it anyway. And because of that, because I worked through it, I was able to really hone in on what I'm passionate about, who I'm passionate about helping. And now I realize that's people that are hosting pop-ups. There are people out there that are sharing booth space with me, that are my neighbor at these pop-up events, that need help, that want to level up, that want to be doing this for 10 plus years, or that want to eventually grow into other aspects of their business, whether that's opening up their own brick and mortar store, or going wholesale, or just doing pop-ups full time, like whatever it is. I want to help my neighbor. And I wouldn't have realized that without working through it and giving myself some time. So all to say, that's what that is. All right, I'm going to do my affirmation for this week. And then after we do the affirmation, I'll talk about what's on the plate for this upcoming week for me in business and personal. So let's pick one here. You guys can see. I'll pick one, this one. It says, everything I build today is on the foundation I laid yesterday. Wow, that one's a good one. Everything I build today is on the foundation I laid yesterday. That's cool. There's this book that I've referenced on this live show in the past, Atomic Habits. And if you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend you start reading it. But it has it briefly talks about something very similar to this card that we just picked, about just incremental change toward the thing that you want to accomplish and how much impact that's going to make over time. And I am by nature a very big picture person. I visualize and I can see the end, but the journey is something that I just don't naturally plan. I have to be very intentional about how to plan my days, my weeks, my month to get me to that big picture that I see so clearly in my head. And Atomic Habits really helped me realize that it's all about the daily baby steps that you make toward that one goal. It's not about the goal, right? It's that like cliche quote of, it's about the journey, not the destination. And it can't be more true, but I guess because it was just so cliche, I didn't take it very seriously. And these reminders like this, I'm going to read it again. This card that says, everything I build today is on the foundation I laid yesterday. It's just like what is in Atomic Habits of, even if you change 1%, right? In the book, he mentions 1%. If you change 1% of your life for the better to accomplish that one big goal you have, over time, that 1% is going to be huge. It might not be huge tomorrow, but it's still a change from yesterday to tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. And a month later, there's going to be change. 2 months later, there's going to be change. A year from now, there's going to be change. And maybe you won't see the change right away, but if you stick with it and you really just concentrate on one small change every single day, continuing that small change little by little, it'll be big in the end. So I love that. I really love that. Now, let's see. This week, so wholesale is still a thing. We're still working on our wholesale. It's actually growing. I have a call after this live show to talk with another possible large wholesale retailer. And that's great. So we'll see what comes out of that. I'll keep you guys updated. We do not have any pop-ups for the next 2 weeks. And I'm kind of excited about that, just because when we do have pop-ups, that means we're working 6 to 7 days in the week. When we don't have pop-ups, we're working about 4 or 5 days a week. So it's a little more doable. So we're taking a break from pop-ups, but we're definitely coming up with our October schedule. I'm working on that right now. And I'm just trying to figure out where we're going to be popping up, because October is Philippine Heritage Month, I think. I feel like a really bad Filipino right now, but it's a Philippine month, let's just say. And so there's a lot of events happening within our community. And so I'm just trying to see what we're going to decide to participate in, and what we're going to be selling, and kind of putting that into our plan for our production. So that's on the docket for this week. Another thing that I'm going to be working on this week is finishing this room. I think this upcoming weekend, Charlie's going to lay the little, the border that goes along like the flooring. So we'll be working on that, so that we can finally move more stuff in here. I'm on the lookout for a sofa bed, because I'm going to be putting a couch right behind me. And so I'm debating on whether or not I want to get a day bed and just put a bunch of throw pillows up against the wall, or if I want a couch. But that way, when we have guests over, they have somewhere where they can sleep comfortably. So we're going to work on that. And then just get more decor in here. I have tons of decor that I can bring in from the living room area, and then bring it in here. So hopefully in the next weeks, you'll see how the room progresses and all that stuff. So I'm excited. I'm just so grateful to have an office again. Like, I miss my best friend, but I'm happy to have a spare room, and she can, whenever she comes to visit, she can stay with us, which is a great thing. But also to have this as an office and be able to close the door to do recordings and to do the live show. It's, oh my gosh, it's so helpful compared to doing it out in the living room. Because as you guys have, if you were part of the live shows in the past, or if you watch any, you can see people walking in the background. It's not ideal. And it's definitely not ideal now because I have a mess here, but it'll get there. So that's that. This week, I'm also working on filing away a lot of paperwork that has been on my desk. I've kind of been putting it off because I knew we were going to move things into the office. So I was working on it last week, and I got half of it done. The second half is what I'm going to work on this week. So it's just a lot of background things that are not interesting whatsoever. But, still have to work on it. And then the last update is Charlie and we are in the market to buy a truck. So because of wholesale, we do deliveries at minimum once a week. And we've had to rent a truck basically every single week. And every time we rent, including gas, it costs us around $250 each time. And if we're doing it 4 times a month, once a week, that's basically $1,000, right? And when we were talking about it, I guess we didn't realize it because we just rent weekly. And then I said, for $1,000, I can save money by buying a truck. Like we can reduce our monthly payment to $600-$700. And so when we realized that, we were like, okay, we need to purchase something. So we're in the market to buy a truck, but it's crazy right now. If you're also out there and you are looking for a car, wow, I didn't realize how crazy the car buying business is right now. There's not much to choose from, and it's cutthroat out there. Like, cars are expensive and they're going for more than what they're listed at, so it's crazy. But we're in the market to buy a truck. I'm really excited about that because that's going to help with our monthly payment and our monthly expenses, and so and it'll be ours. So once it's paid off, it's paid off. And so we're looking for a good truck, something that'll last us quite a while, something that can tow a lot of weight, but then we can also use it for pop-ups, and we're looking for one that we can put a car seat in the cabin, so that if we are doing pop-ups out of town, we can bring Micah along. We don't have to bring an extra car, that type of thing. So very exciting. Charlie loves the car buying process, and he loves like looking at cars. He's a car guy. So he's very excited. He's the one that's kind of taking care of it. I'm more of the just give it the final stamp of approval and then we move on. But yeah, so that's what's on the docket for this week too. I think we'll be making a decision on what we end up getting by the end of this week, hopefully. And then who knows, I'm not sure how long it'll take for us to actually get the truck, because I heard some people are waiting like 30, 60 days to get the vehicle that they bought. And, obviously normally you just drive it off of the lot, right, of the dealership. And so things are crazy right now. But yeah, so that's what's on the agenda for this week. A lot of fun things. Personally, I am, and I want you guys to hold me accountable to this, but I've been not eating well at all. And I've noticed myself getting more and more tired, and not much has changed in my daily routine. And I know the first way to remedy my energy is to change what I'm eating, and then obviously add in more more movement in my daily life. But one thing I really want to do is eat better, because I know that'll help a lot with my energy. So I'm working on that. I'm trying to cut down on the coffee, because I used to have coffee once a day and that would be good enough for me in the morning. And now I'm like, by 3:00, I'm dragging. I could barely keep my eyes open, and I don't want to drink a second cup of coffee. And so, yeah, changing my diet, I know, is the first thing that's got to happen. So keep me accountable to that. That is my main concern for myself this upcoming week. Okay. Now, booth critique. Before we get into this week, I wanted to share with you guys, if you ever want to do a booth critique, I want to start doing them during this live show every Monday. So if you have pictures of your booth and you want a critique from me, I'll put my Instagram link down below. Send me a DM, send me a picture of your booth, and then I can do a critique live here on the show, and then I'll send you the link so you can watch it. So my friend sent me a photo of her booth setup, and she graciously let me share this with you guys. But let's jump into our first booth critique. That's not my own booth. Okay, so this is her setup. And let's talk about all the good things. For one, it looks very clean, not like too messy, and it looks pretty full from this photo. As you can see, she has some one product on the bottom and then another on the top. And from what I can tell, these are beverages, it looks like, and then below is like a snack. So her business is called Furikake Mix. That's like, I think the acronym that she came up with for her business. And so she makes these and she sells them at pop-ups. And I have yet to try it, but I love Hawaiian snacks. So this is definitely something that I'm going to be ordering and trying, but I think her setup looks really great. The other thing that she did was she clearly put her price list in the center. She picked some very nice looking frames that are nice and matching. The continuity of the fonts is really easy. And then it looks like she purchased these like metal crates that she's using to get product up off the table, which is another great thing. Now, we don't have a person standing here for perspective, but I can guess that a person standing in front of this table is going to be about right here. So her product isn't necessarily at eye level. It's up off of the table, which is great, but I would challenge to put the furry mix up here versus down at the bottom. And why? Because that's what she mainly sells. She doesn't mainly sell these drinks. She mainly sells these snack packs. And so if that is what your main seller is, that product is the product that should definitely be at people's eye level, because that's what they're going to see first. So my recommendation would be to put more of her bags up here on all the crates, because there's real estate there that you can use. So put some there, and then maybe, yes, put these drinks in the middle, and then put more bags like she has down at the bottom. Now, what I would also recommend is to have it spill out. Have it spill outside of these crates and not just inside, but on the actual table itself as well, just so that it looks more full. Because like I said in the beginning of the live, is the more full your table looks, the more inviting it is. I think this is already really nice and inviting, but if you can merchandise more, because people might be afraid to grab these bags when it's in the crate because they don't want to mess up your display. If you put bags right in front, that's something that they can easily pick up, and they're not going to be afraid of messing up your beautiful display, and then they can also put it down again. So I would recommend to put more of your bags down here, but it'll also invite them if you put some bags up here as well, because that also is something that's easy to pick up, and they don't have to, like put it back in, because I can tell on these crates, it hits the top a little bit. And so sometimes people are a little afraid because they don't want to mess anything up. They don't want to knock anything off of your table or knock something down. So if it doesn't fit quite right, or if it's a little snug, people are kind of hesitant to pick it up. So that's one tip, or a few tips. Another tip that I have is if you have any ingredients listed, I would put it either in a frame with your product. That way people can see what the ingredients are in case there's any allergens, or just print out a second sticker and slap it on the back of these bags. That way, if anyone has any allergies, they can pick up the bag and take a look if any of their particular allergies are in your snacks. So definitely put your ingredients, because that is very, very important that you do. Another thing that would drive people to maybe stop at your booth is a picture frame or a sign of some kind that explains how to pronounce your business name, because some people won't be able to pronounce it, and what is it. So because I love Hawaiian snacks, I love going to Hawaii, I'm very familiar with what this is. I'm very familiar with the snack. I think this is great. I definitely am already sold. I want to buy one. But for those that don't know, it's a great opportunity for something to catch a person's eye of what it is, and they can read it from afar. And if what you wrote is interesting enough to them, they'll come to your table. So what we do for ours is we do a "What is ube" sign, because a lot of people more people are aware of what ube is now, but in the past, a lot of people didn't know what ube was. So I created a sign. I put it right here or here. That's where I would put it. And I would just in big letters put what is ube. And then I would do like a 1 paragraph, description of what it is. And it was great because if someone doesn't know what it is, it educates them, and then they can ask more questions. And also, if it's not for them, if they're not interested in what the description is and it doesn't sound good to them, they can move along and you don't have to waste your time. So having a sign like that is a nice educational piece, but it'll also it'll be less for you to have to explain because you have that sign out there, and then you can focus on telling them about why you make it, right? Like, are you doing this because you love Hawaii and it reminds you of the islands? Or are you doing it because you're really passionate about cooking or feeding people? Are you passionate about your family and you're doing it to make extra money to save for something for your family? Like that gives you the opportunity to tell them about you instead of just about the product. So when you do pop-ups like this, I'm reminded that like most people spend less than 5 minutes at your booth, right? Because there's so many booths to choose from. So you want to make sure you maximize your time with everyone that comes and stops at your booth. So the generic things that people don't necessarily know that could attract people is like, what is ube? What is furry mix? Tell them what it is in a frame. And then from there, you can dive deeper in those conversations about your family, about you, about why you're starting this pop-up business. That can be the conversation piece that you have because you've filtered out the people that aren't interested in what you have to offer. So that would be another tip that I have for this person. Another tip that I have is it looks like you're in the sun. So I definitely recommend either if the event organizers allow it, of an umbrella or a sunshade of some kind, because the sun can drain you, man. It can really drain you of energy. And because this is food, it can have an effect on your food too. So get a sunshade of some kind, whether it's an umbrella or a tent. It'll definitely help with your energy. It'll help preserve and keep the quality of your products longer. I mean, even if it wasn't food and it was, say, clothing, right? The sun will have an effect on your clothing that you're selling as well, because it could get sun damaged or whatever it is. So definitely think about a shade. And if these are beverages, because not everyone knows that they're beverages, and if it's a hot day and you think people are going to want this, maybe instead of this side being all the crates, you can get an ice, bucket, and then put them in there so that they stay cold and people can just grab them and they're cool and ready to drink. I believe she said that there was a cooler, but think about beer commercials, right? When you see the picture, or if you see a commercial and they have an ice cold beer, like stuck in the snow or stuck in an ice bucket, it makes you think, wow, that looks really good and refreshing. I want a beer. So maybe getting an ice bucket and filling it with ice to keep those drinks cool would also entice people to go, man, it is hot out here. That drink looks really good. I can drink it while I'm walking around or something like that. So that's another tip. But otherwise, I think this looks really great. I love the clean look. And if your branding is just black and white, I feel like this is great. Like it really matches with the tone. It shows a little bit of personality. But those small tips I think would really help with just driving more people to your booth and and making it visually a little more appealing and a little more inviting. All right. Well, that is it for this week, guys. Thank you once again for tuning in. If you, like I said, want a booth critique, please feel free, DM me on Instagram at JustKissa. I'll put it in the description below with the chapter markers and everything like that. Please feel free to send me those photos. I can share them and my feedback for you on these live shows. I'm live every Monday around 12-ish, 1-ish, and I would love for you to join me. But if you're on the replay, thank you for watching the replay too. So thanks once again. I will see you guys in next week's live show. And stay tuned. My video for my top 5 tips for your table setup is going live tomorrow. So if you're not subscribed already, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great week. Bye.